What happens to dear Carly? What happens to you, and how did your faith change in all this?
So she had kidney cancer. Her kidney, when they opened her up, she had a pound-and-a-quarter Nerf football, essentially, picture that, consuming one of her kidneys. And we don't know how long she had it. She was way on the upper end of the range for this type of cancer that she had. So they took the kidney out, sewed her back up. She started her chemo, and all kinds of things occurred. She ended up having a surgical adhesion that blocked her colon. She had to go in and have a foot of her colon taken out. But that point is where my faith really dramatically changed, because I, at that point, to be honest with you, during this phase, hated God. Hated God. How can God let my daughter suffer? How can God, who loves us, supposedly, let a kid suffer? And so when we took her to the hospital to get her colon clipped out, it was a long, long, long story, but I'm going to condense it dramatically. The day they found out, we'd been in the hospital 6 days. She had a morphine drip every 10 minutes, click, 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 tube down her throat, couldn't even keep ice chips down. It was the worst thing as a parent I've ever been through. Saturday morning, I called the docs and I said, you get her taken care of her. I'm taking her to Cleveland Clinic, or I'm taking her to Mayo, I'm taking her someplace else. So they did an emergency MRI and found, and I remember, I'll never forget, we had taken her back and we were this, like, running down the hall. And they come and open the curtain, can we see you in the hall? Which is never good. So we go out and the doctor said, she has an adhesion. We think she has a perforated colon. We're going to have to open her up. We're going to have to let her air out for 2 weeks. We're going to clip it out. We're going to air her out. She's going to have to have a colostomy bag for 6 months. Here's my 6-year-old taking chemo with a colostomy bag, open wound for 2 weeks. This is what the prognosis was in that hallway that day. I hated God. So we went out, and they rushed her back. And then an hour and a half into her 5-hour surgery, boom, the door kicks open. The doctor comes out, full garb, gloves, blood, mask. Imagine how you'd feel. Nobody else in the waiting room except us. So, of course, you take your breath. He's like, great news. We opened her up, no perforation. We clipped her, put it together, sewed her back up, no colostomy bag. And literally, my wife and I just... we, of course, thanked the doctor, but when he left, we dropped to the floor and wept. And I'll never forget, this is where my faith journey became much more dramatic. My wife, as we came up to our knees, she looked at me, and she looked me right in the eye. She grabbed me by the cheeks and said, can you imagine how God must have felt when his son was hanging on the cross, screaming out, my God, why have you forsaken me? He could have stopped it, but he didn't, because he loved us that much. We would have given our lives to stop Carly's pain, but we couldn't. That's God's love for us.